All right, so as we're getting ready to jump into the book of Galatians, I have to tell you, I was a little bit lacking in enthusiasm, but the more I've gotten into it, the more I realize that it is incredibly important. It is so valuable to who we are, not just as Christians, but specifically in this era. It deals with issues that I cannot wait to jump into. And so what you'll notice is that Paul also felt like this was a very, very important issue. In fact, there's a few times right at the beginning where you're thinking he's a little bit too hostile. So I asked this question today: why was Paul so hostile in his words concerning the gospel? Is it that big of a deal that he was dealing with? And as I've been looking at it, I realized that the message that he shares in the book of Galatians changes everything. It changed them at their core. It's here that he enlightens us to the contrast between what had been and what was now. It is here that he begins to share with us what Christ had done in our lives. Here he exposes Satan's schemes to keep us totally focused on works rather than the grace that Christ has done. It's here that he lines out this juxtaposition between religion and relationship, or perhaps you would say between Messiah, who delivers us, versus manipulation, which power always loves to do. So, as we look, was it that big of a deal? Yes. Was Paul hostile? Yes. Was he justified in that? Yes. So another question I ask is this: why is a life of works so appealing? Why are we so drawn to works? I think there's a one-word answer for that: pride. Why? Because my works are about me and what I can perform. It's measurable. It's something that I can see, and I give myself the benefit of the doubt for. I believe that a works-based faith is something that's really rooted in pride and ego. Something that says, I can control that. So we go on to this next idea. Why would we do that? Well, one, there's a lack of intimacy. And I would direct you to look at Matthew chapter 7, verses 21 through 23 about that. There's this lack of intimacy where people do all the right things, but they don't know the Lord. You could go on and you could see other aspects of that where there's perhaps a lack of maturity. And I would encourage you to look at 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 11. And it lays out that works really are something that make people who are weak in their faith feel better. Make people who can't grasp the grace of God feel better. So the third question I have for us today is this: why is religion of works so common? What I want you to just think about for a second is this. Basically, every religion on earth is based on a concept of works equals salvation, or works equals whatever the goal is. That if we can manipulate you into works, then you get what you want. And Christianity is different than that. What it really points us towards is the work of Christ, what he has already accomplished. And so it's not about what I can do, but it's about what he has already done. And it calls me to place my faith in him. As I do, I trust him and I trust his leadership. The Holy Spirit takes me over. It's no longer about what I can do to gain his approval or his affection, but it's relying on what he has already done. And then I do my works, not based out of obligation, but based out of joy, that I get to serve this God who so served me. When we look at that, this religion of works is common worldwide because it's there that manipulation can happen. It's there that control can happen. It's there that egos can be inflated and power can be practiced over other people. See, there's a reason that works-based salvation is so powerful, but it is not of God. It's of Satan. It's his way of distracting you from the grace of God. So Jesus is different because Jesus redeems us. Jesus makes us clean. Jesus makes us perfect. We can now have fellowship with God. This is how joy set before Christ was seen in Hebrews chapter 12 when it says, "Therefore, because of such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders us and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race set before us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him." What was that joy? That joy was that he was presenting us to his Father without blemish. He was taking us to his daddy without blemish. And this is the gospel. Let us not take it for granted. In fact, let us have the same convictions that Paul had when he was fighting for it. And let's look at Galatians and see where we have sometimes found ourselves wrapped up in legalism and religion, and in doing so have discounted the value of God's gospel through Jesus Christ.